Hey, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tim and Jim Show. I am Tim Sohn, hanging out in the woods here with the bears and the turkeys and the occasional human being, and with Sohn Social Media Solutions. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited for today's guest. But first, I'm going to turn it over to my trusty co-host, Mr. Jim Fuse, who's going to take it away. Hello, my friend.
Well, thank you, Tim. And it's great to be here on is it Wednesday? It's hump day, right?
It is
Hump day.
Wednesday.
Waiting for the camels to show up in my backyard. Maybe they'll eat the tree that fell from the storm we had this weekend. But fortunately, only thing that was injured was plants. But of course, that means we have to replant them. But I'm here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Can't decide if it wants to be cold or hot. It starts to warm up. Now supposedly we might get snow again on Friday. My wife's excited. I'm not. I don't like snow unless I'm
and let us know the weather forecast where you are.
Yes. And Sarah is in jolly old England, and I'm not sure if the weather is jolly or not. I'm sure she'll let us know. But excited to have Sarah on the show. Sarah is a dear friend. We met on Twitter. And then as she had a LinkedIn post, right? We're talking about LinkedIn today, folks, for those of you that didn't know ahead of time. And, then we got to meet in person and actually hang out in sunny San Diego, which hopefully we'll all be doing again soon. That was
2019 or 20? 19?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That was so fun.
Yes. And so excited to have Sarah here. Sarah is one of those folks, like I think we have, Tim, that has really changed, well, I should say shifted from what she was doing before to what she's doing now. And she's been killing it on LinkedIn, to be blunt. And so Sarah, welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about yourself and what's been going on.
Well, I cannot tell you how excited I am to be here. I'm so excited I'm having to wave. And that intro, it's octane. It's amazing. I mean, I don't know if you could see me rocking out in the background there. It was amazing. Yeah. I loved it. So yeah.
But our friend Chris Stone made that for us. So if anybody needs videos like that made, just let us know. We can get you in contact with him. But
great, yeah, no, definitely, it's brilliant, and I loved seeing all my chums up there on your screen. It's brilliant. And yes, we met in, I think it was definitely on Twitter. But I remember when I first met you two over breakfast with Nancy Hill, and it was the first time that you two had met in person. But you've been doing the Tim and Jim show for ages. And I loved it.
It was so fun.
Yeah. So yeah, I can talk about the weather if you like. It's quite nice, actually. It's 4 o'clock. It's getting dark. It's been dry today here in England. But yeah, it's cool. It's all right. It's not too bad. We won't. I don't think we'll get snow this year, but we tend to get snow in February. So yeah, we're okay. We're good.
Very good.
So yeah, you were talking about pivoting. I did pivot. I started out as a social media strategist, and I had an agency, and I was running social media for people, and then got into training people on social media as part of what I was doing. It's a long story. I won't bore you. And realized I actually loved the training more, and I was better at it, to be honest. So I thought, this is what I want to do. So I was training people in social media, sort of generally in marketing. And then I started using LinkedIn for myself to get clients, get business in a very kind of haphazardy kind of way, just having a little play, really.
Yeah.
And I started getting clients. I was like, I like this. This is quite good.
Right.
So then I sort of gradually spent more and more time on LinkedIn. And then I was in this big meeting once, and somebody shouted across the room, Sarah Clay, do you do LinkedIn training? And I was like, yeah, why not? That's how I started.
That's funny, because that's kind of how I started with training as well. As I had started doing social media, and this lady who was a small business center director at this college that I knew, she's like, hey, can you do a Facebook workshop? I'm like, sure. Now I'll go figure out what I'm going to say.
Yeah. And I remember I was just gonna
Yeah.
say, I remember, Sarah, when we were in person and we were having a conversation. I think we were all out at dinner with a bunch of people, and you were talking about like trying to figure out, like a niche or what exactly to focus on, right? And now you're all in on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But I didn't push it, it just kind of happened. And I think for me, and for you, Jim, as well, doing that, I say to my clients and students, just follow your heart, really. Sometimes you just got to really go with where the path is leading you. And it was definitely leading me towards LinkedIn. And it's been brilliant. And I love it. I love the platform.
Yes. And so we've got several people here we want to say hello to before we dive into these questions. We've got Junaid, Ahmed is here, and Gabe is here. And Gabe also hopes you're okay, because I did also read about your bicycling incident.
Oh no.
Where the guy decided he wanted to try to run you over. You sure it wasn't like somebody from the Bourne Identity? Is something we don't know about?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I've made a thing, complaint to the police. I'm absolutely fine. I was just very cross. Really.
I could understand that.
I was.
Yeah. We got Stefan Kaplan is here, and I know he's getting ready to has he launched his new show, Tim, or relaunched?
His new show is tonight at 7:00 Eastern time, and his guest is Tim McDonald, and he's relaunched his show, The Spin It Social Hour, focusing on social good. And Tim McDonald is a cancer survivor, so it's going to be a really great show. So definitely check it out. Stefan, if you could put in the comments where people could tune in, it's going to be a really good show.
Yeah.
And we're also going to have Tim McDonald on the show that I co-host with Kara Ulker, who's in the comments. Hey, Kara. Showing up perspectives on cancer in 2 weeks. So looking forward to that as well.
And I see, I apparently you must be royalty now, because Andy Carlton said that Lady Clay is here. So
hello, Andy. Nice to see you.
Yeah. And our good friend Gail from Canada is here, and her show is today at 1 p.m. On LinkedIn, so make sure you check that out as well. So lots of live streamers. And Gabe, who is also here, he does a great job. Make sure you go over to Gabe's page and follow him. He's been putting out, I think it's daily, the LinkedIn live shows that are going on, and this show is on multiple channels, and LinkedIn definitely being one of them over on Tim's page, because LinkedIn won't let us go live on both our pages at the same time.
Yes.
So.
And
we flipped the coin. Tim won.
And Kara says, you do seem like you're a secret agent of sorts, Sarah.
Me?
Yes.
I'd be the worst secret agent in the world.
You can't keep any secrets? Is that what you're saying?
I can, but I'm not really very good at that. No. I'm too communicative.
Ooh, that's a big word.
It is, isn't it?
Yes. So today we're going to talk about how to use LinkedIn to sell without being salesy. And I know I do, Tim, you do. I mean, we probably should almost do a poll. How many connections do you get where the first thing is like, hey, Sarah, we got a bunch of mutual connections on LinkedIn. I'd love to talk to you about how I can help you with your HR. And things of that nature, even though it's like, well, I don't have any employees. I don't think I need HR unless I'm going to talk to myself. But, so we see that a lot. Do you seem to have that happen to you, Tim? Do you get a lot of those connection requests?
Yes. Or, hi, I would like to help you grow your social media presence or help you with your live streaming. Yes, I would like to do that. Let's chat. Yeah, let's get on a call and let's talk about how I can help you with your live stream. Yes, those are my favorite ones.
Yes, definitely. And so with that, I think, Sarah, are you ready for us to fire away some questions at you?
Yes. Okay.
All right. So
Unscripted,
question number 1, Tim, take it away.
Sarah Clay, what brought you to LinkedIn? I know there's so much pressure as your number 1 platform.
I just love it. Okay, so I sort of mentioned earlier about, and these are unscripted because we decided that's how we were going to roll today. I mentioned about how I just kind of started playing around on LinkedIn and started actually getting clients without, really doing anything. And I remember going to a party when we were going to parties, and there were all my local friends. Lots of lawyers live around here. And they're like, Sarah, you're all over LinkedIn. We just keep seeing you. And I went back and I posted 3 times, literally 3 times. And I was apparently all over LinkedIn. So I thought, oh, I like this. This is pretty good. I'm going to do this more. And honestly, that's how it grew. And it was a really organic process. And my very good friend, John Aspirian, he was, very helpful when I first started out. And he's a great guy to follow. And I just love it. I love the way that everybody's here. Yes, of course, we're here to sell. We're here to do business. But we do it in a way where we build those relationships first. And for me, and I don't know, for so many people, that's important, and that's why I love it. And that's what brought me here. It's the community, actually, is what brought me here. One thing I really, really love about LinkedIn is how you get this kind of, I don't know, like a ripple effect. You throw a stone into a pond and you've got your first connections, or your first degree connections, like you guys, let's say. And then I comment on one of your posts and I'm exposing myself to your audiences. So, the potential to meet people and connect with people on LinkedIn it literally is endless. And that's what I love about LinkedIn. So it's the community really that's brought me here. And of course, the opportunities to grow my business, which is purely based around LinkedIn now. So that's, I guess, the community and the business growth, for sure.
And I think it's interesting too, Sarah, because like you said, we met on Twitter, and I think I was having this conversation with maybe it was even with our guest last week, how I've started a lot of networking. It starts on Twitter and then it comes over to LinkedIn. It's like, once I have a little bit of trust with this person, and I don't necessarily want to go to the other platforms, right? It's like, I feel like LinkedIn is a professional platform. We talk about, business, and sure, we can share things about our life, but I just think it's not as noisy as Facebook. It's easier to be seen, and that the people there are there for a reason. I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Tim? How have you felt about LinkedIn?
Yeah, for me, LinkedIn has been a wonderful experience. For me, it's been kind of a different experience than a lot of people, probably because in June I started sharing my story of living with cancer in 15 years. I've celebrated living with cancer for being a cancer survivor for 15 years. And I shared the story for the first time in June. And we just developed this show, myself and Kara, who has her perspective on it. And so I've been sharing content that's been very personal in nature, but have developed such relationships with people and with other survivors and other people. So many people are connected to cancer in some way, whether it's a family member that has a survivor in their family, or a family member has passed, or some connection to it. So it's been, and I've just found the LinkedIn community, at least the people that I've come into contact on LinkedIn, are so encouraging and uplifting and loving and caring. Have you found that as well, Sarah?
Unbelievably. It's been absolutely incredible. So your story, Tim, is lovely. And the way you're sharing it is wonderful. But things like, excuse me, I've had surgery last year and it didn't go very well, and and it was a bit of a nightmare. And I shared my story as well on LinkedIn. And even yesterday, getting knocked off my bike, people just jump in there and they're supportive and they're helpful. And from one of the posts I wrote about my leg story, and it was, I can't remember what the story was, but it was about how, what a nightmare it had been and how I felt I was getting out of it, and it was looking better. But I connected with all kinds of people because of that, and people connected me to other people who had similar stories, and we grew friendships in the DMs. And it is such a supportive community. And I remember one time there was a guy who was being really mean to me on one of my posts, and he was being really spammy. And I put up, I'm going to block you now. This is enough. And I did. I blocked him, and my phone rang. And I was like, ooh, who's this? And it was the wonderful Ella Orr, who I have met. I'd met her a couple of times in person. And she got my number from somewhere, and she rang me to see if I was okay.
Wow.
I mean, how cool is that? I'd met her twice probably. And it is such a strong community. It's such a lovely place. And there's a balance, I think, between sharing, everything, your personal story. This isn't Facebook, but it doesn't matter. I think it's about people, and it's about who we are and our stories. People love stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And so, Sarah, let's kind of go with our next question. And this one might be a little tougher. They're not all softballs here, right? I don't think. Why should we be active on LinkedIn? Because I think, I've seen where, and I don't know, this is what I do. You can counsel me if I'm doing it wrong. Someone will send me a connection request, and I will look at their activity. And if I see they're not posting or even like commenting on people's post, whether it's even a like, I don't connect with them, because I'm like, you're just here to kind of like farm me for something else. But what's your thoughts on that?
I think that's a really sensible thing to do. And I always say to people, always check out somebody's profile before you connect with them, because there are fake accounts, etc., etc. But also, if you're sitting in the pub and somebody just comes over and starts chatting to you, you're not going to automatically straight away be their best friend. You want to get to know them first. And if if you see, as you do see, and that people aren't engaging on LinkedIn and they're not being there, why are they connecting with you? You've got to think to yourself, there's something going on here. And yeah, you're right, they're probably more likely to be hitting you with a sales message in the next DM. But being active on LinkedIn, it's about this whole community thing, and it's about building relationships on LinkedIn. So if you're just sitting and watching or lurking, as we say, LinkedIn lurkers, you're just not going to build those relationships. So there really is no point. You're just wasting your time completely. But if you're there commenting on other people's posts, jumping into conversations, you're building those relationships, and you're increasing your reach as well. I always liken LinkedIn to a sort of a huge networking party, which is basically what it is. And if you go to a huge networking place, one of these hotels, great big hotel lobby or whatever, ballroom thing, and you stand in the corner and just watch everybody, there's really no point. You need to be getting in there and talking to people and working the room, if you like, and increasing your network. Otherwise, there's just no point in being there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my reason. And it's not just about commenting. You want to be posting valuable content and everything, but we can tackle that another time. But if you're going to use LinkedIn, you need to be there regularly. And if you're there regularly, you're going to start to build up that trust with your audience. If they see you there all the time, you're popping up, you're going to be here, you're going to be front of mind. So, for example, if you're a coach and you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, somebody may not need your services at that time. But if they see you all the time on LinkedIn, you keep popping up. When the day comes and they're thinking about, I think I need a coach. Oh, what about so-and-so? And you're just going to be there front of mind for them. Mm-hmm. And they're going to know you a little bit because they've seen you on LinkedIn. So that whole buying process is going to be much easier, and they're that much closer to buying from you.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I would say more so before we, went into whatever we call these last couple of years, I would have people at networking events that would say things like, "Oh, I really like what," kind of like you're saying, "I really like what you're doing on LinkedIn," or "I really like your live show." And it's like they never commented, they never reacted. So I had no idea they were watching. And so I think it kind of goes back to, I think there's a lot of lurkers, I won't call them stalkers, on LinkedIn. And so as a business professional, you need to think about what you're putting out there, how you're putting yourself out there. But I also am excited from an activity standpoint, and I wasn't sure that I would be, but after being on a couple, LinkedIn audio is really, I think, going to be very interesting because now we can bring people together and have conversations, which I know you'd been doing on Clubhouse for a while. I mean, what are your thoughts of some of the new things that LinkedIn is doing to, I guess, maybe increase activity and engagement?
Yeah, interesting. You should bring out Clubhouse because our Clubhouse room is straight after this. But I haven't had time to set the room up, but I will set it up after this and we'll go straight in. And it's been great. The whole audio thing was fantastic, especially in like big, deep lockdown, if that's what you want to call it. It was a real lifesaver for lots and lots of people having that connection. And I think Clubhouse is great. And our room, we get some wonderful people who come into our Clubhouse room and they engage, they ask questions. We have quite we nerd out about LinkedIn. And it's great. But of course, now LinkedIn have got a very similar platform, LinkedIn Audio, which isn't rolled out quite yet to everybody. Yes, of course, we're thinking about shifting it across to LinkedIn, and we may well do that. The side problem is, though, that the audio events are very difficult to find on LinkedIn. So thank goodness for, I call him Gabe, you call him Gabe, who is doing a daily kind of list of what's on today in the audio channel. But I think having the audio within LinkedIn is it's a really sensible idea, because during the time that you're on that audio, you can connect with all the people who are in that audio room, whatever it's called. I don't think it's technically called a room, but I think that's what we're calling it. Even if you're not connected to them, you can still send them messages and, build those relationships even deeper. And I think that's where audio is going to be an absolute winner on LinkedIn. But they do need to find a way of categorizing it and having a directory or something so that the rooms are easier to find, for sure.
That's a great point, because I think with LinkedIn Live and video on LinkedIn in general, as a creator, right, whether we're uploading videos that are recorded or we're doing a live show, it's not like you can just go like, oh, I want to go watch that episode where Sarah Clay was on the Tim and Jim show. Like, it's almost like, hey, if you want to see that, you're better off going to YouTube. And so that's one of those features, whether it's on our profile or whether it's our company page, that would be nice. And if you're listening, LinkedIn, allow us to organize better for people to be able to access that previous content. I mean, I've seen some very unique ways people have done it. But it still kind of goes back. It takes an extra step for people. And but I'm with you, Sarah. I'm excited to see how I wasn't sure at first, but after I've done a couple of these LinkedIn audios as a guest on a couple of people that have the beta access, I really like what I see. It's like they've taken some of what Twitter Spaces has done and some of what Clubhouse has done. I mean, you can already do it on both desktop and your phone, which was one of the things that the others didn't start out with. So, but then again, right, sometimes it's almost like it can be overwhelmed, like, where should I be? But if you're a LinkedIn person, it would make sense that if you could, you would migrate to where your audience is, but you still will probably miss Clubhouse. I could see that. So Tim, should we go to a word from our friends over at StreamYard?
Let's do it. And first, let's dance. Let's
All
dance
right.
while we're going into it. And we're back on the Tim and Jim Show with Sarah Clay talking about how to sell on LinkedIn without being salesy.
And so speaking of these questions, Tim, how about taking question number 3?
Yes, but first we must do the drum roll, the very high technological drum roll. Sarah Clay, how do we keep ourselves from being salesy? Like, how do we just not be salesy on LinkedIn? How can we do this?
Well, I don't think it's hard, but I do get that it is hard for some people because I think people get very, very impatient, and LinkedIn isn't a sprint. It's a marathon, guys. You have to be in it for the long game. And, I often ask this question, would you ask somebody to marry you on a first date? No. Jim, how long did it take you to propose to Karen?
Well, it's funny that you should say that because, Karen is my second wife, but my first wife, it was like 2 weeks. So that's why I kind of laughed.
And that didn't last.
That's right. So there you go. But yeah, it was almost a year.
Yeah.
So
See,
I had to get to know, like, and trust her.
Exactly. And yes, we get messages. At the moment, it's really weird, and I'm not sure whether it's an algorithm thing or whatever. But last couple of weeks, I've been not bombarded, to be fair, but I've had a lot of sales DMs from insurance companies. I have no idea why suddenly insurance companies, maybe because I've got a new client who is in insurance, maybe, I don't know. So they're, hitting me with insurance. But the funniest ones, like, you were saying, Tim, do you need help with your LinkedIn?
Yes.
Have you read my profile? People aren't going to buy. And I know for lots of sales managers, it's a numbers game. And, they get paid per hit and all of that kind of thing. And if they're putting out 1,000 salesy DMs, maybe one will convert. But I think more and more, especially since lockdown, where the relationships are so important, that whole salesy messaging thing is just a complete waste of time, and it really doesn't work. And there are people, as you say, who are watching you, and if they see you often enough, they will buy. So how do we keep ourselves from being salesy on LinkedIn? We just bide our time and be patient and enjoy what we're doing, building the relationships. And it's not to say that we just go out there and chat to anybody. We can still be targeted in our outreach. We can still use that amazing search option in LinkedIn to target people, but targeting people to build a relationship to lead to the sale. That's how you're going to do it. And if you're doing it that way and you're getting high quality customers, those customers are going to start referring you. They're going to start talking about you to other people, and they're going to be doing your marketing for you and your sales for you. So you're going to need to do it less and less. So I think if you're writing a DM or a message to anybody, read it through. And if you've used the word I too many times, think, because it isn't about us. It's about, it's about our audience. And always remember that everything we do on LinkedIn, from our profile to our DMs, to our content, to our searching, everything we do on LinkedIn is about our audience. And that's where our focus should be. What do our audience want? How can we make their lives better? Because that's all they want to know. That's all they care about. It's what's in it for me. How can this person, how can Sarah help me? How can Jim, how can Tim help me? And so, this amazing show that you put on every week, people watch it because of the amazing guests you have, of the entertainment, the music, and because they love you guys as well, and it is about building those relationships. So just slow down, think and stop. And with regards to content, I do put salesy content out on LinkedIn, i.e. I tell people what I'm doing. If I've got a special offer, I'll put it out there on LinkedIn. the posts never do that well, but I feel it's important that I tell people what I'm doing. But those salesy posts, keep them down to a, 1 in 5 max, if that. And it's about community building, and it's about being helpful and giving your advice, giving your help to people, solving people's problems. And that's what's going to have people buying from you.
Well, and I think you bring up a really good point, and I think this is where I don't know if struggle is the right word, but I don't think about it. But I had someone, mention this before, and I, another good friend of ours that I recommend you follow if you want to learn about LinkedIn is Judy Fox. But one is not only engaging on other people's posts and not feeling like you always got to post yourself. And by engagement, I mean like these great folks that are watching the show today that are commenting. That is true engagement. Engagement is not just, hitting one of the reaction buttons, because sure, you kind of check the block, but why did you check that block, so to speak? But I think it's like sometimes, to your point, like when you share a story about what you're doing in your business, tell people what you did for someone, as opposed to saying like, oh, I do live stream production. Well, what about if I said what company I did it for and how it helped them? That's going to resonate better than just talking about like, hey, this is what I do if you need help. I think that's sometimes we forget, right? It's kind of like the hero's journey, like tell how you helped the hero and you were the guide in that way.
Absolutely. And it's the I thing, isn't it? And I'll look at people's profiles and their about sections. I did this, I did that, I worked here, I did that. People aren't interested, it's how you helped them.
Mhm.
They were able to do this because I was there, or because I did this. And that's just a much, much better, stronger way to write it. Oh, I missed
Right.
Gabe's comments. Go on.
Oh, he said he's going to be in an audio room with Judy Fox, with Vinny
Oh.
Potestivo. I probably butchered that name. So Tim, I mean, how have you kept yourself from being salesy on LinkedIn?
For me, the majority of the content that I've created, at least since June, has been personal in nature. And I have started to add some more like value kind of posts, around live streaming and things of that nature. But by creating mostly personal content, my business is growing. I am developing more relationships with people. I'm getting on more Zoom calls with people. And it's working. I mean, if I did something different, might my business grow faster? Potentially. I don't know. But that's just what I've been doing just since sharing my cancer story. And I've been very focused on that since June.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think it goes back to what Gail said Sarah said, Gail agreed with it, that it's a marathon, right?
Yeah.
I would even make the argument it's more than a marathon. It's a journey, because when you get to that 26.2 miles, you don't get to stop. You got to keep going.
Don't stop. Carry on.
So we always think that there's an end, but there's really never an end. So I sometimes think and I can't remember who I heard that from. I was like, yeah, I never thought of it that way, right? We know it's a marathon, but really it's a journey. I mean, Sarah, like we talked about earlier, we all have shifted in our journeys. Like we were going down, we got to that fork in the road, right? And then we took the one fork instead of the other, right? We could still be doing daily social media management, and we've chosen to do things that are more in what we like doing and want to do, as opposed to feeling like I have to do this in order to. And that's a tough decision sometimes to do. And
it is a tough decision, but I think that you can see when someone's enjoying what they're doing. And it makes such a difference when you're working with people who obviously enjoy what they're doing, rather than somebody who's gone down perhaps the wrong path. And the whole thing about this being LinkedIn being a journey, I always think of an athlete. They get to the top of their game and they run, the fastest race they've won all their gold medals, etc. And as long as they've had their COVID jab, they they can't stop. They've got to keep training. You've got, you can't just stop there because you've got to that place. To stay there, you've just got to keep going and keep training and keep on your game.
Right. And so, Sarah, we've got one more question for you if you have time, because I do know you have your clubhouse today.
Yes, I have time.
What are some tips to help businesses get started the right way on LinkedIn?
Oh, good question. Good question. So I'm actually in the middle of writing my newsletter for tomorrow, last minute Mary as I am. And it's about business pages specifically, but personal profiles, business pages, however you want to market yourself on LinkedIn. For me, I always say start with your profile. Start building that profile because that's your shop window. So whatever you're doing on LinkedIn, and we've talked about this, when somebody sends a connection request, the first thing you should do is go and look at their profile. So that's where I would start building a really, really strong profile, whether it's your company page or whether it's your personal profile or both, whichever, however you're going to do it. Get that profile really, really tight. Make sure you've optimized every single section, because people forget that there's all the volunteering, there's the education, adding PDFs to your experience section. People just don't realize that these things are there. So that would be my starting point, is get that shop window really, really secure, and looking really clear. Tell everybody who you are, what it is that you do, and just make it really, really optimized. So that's my start. And then it's about producing value add, helpful, regular content, and regularly going onto LinkedIn. And I mean daily. It doesn't have to be for long, but if you're there every day for 10 minutes even, commenting, adding value on other people's posts, that's how you're going to get a really, really good, strategy on LinkedIn. But the first thing you need to know is why you're there. You've got to know in your heart what you're doing there and why you're there, so that your messaging is clear and you're clear on what you're doing.
Yeah, because I know we have, mutual friends on social media that a lot of them and they're in business and they want to work with businesses. They feel like, LinkedIn is spammy, and they just don't do LinkedIn, right? Like, oh, I'm going to stay on Facebook, which I think is, doesn't make sense to me when you think of mindsets. I think that's a great point that you bring about why are you on LinkedIn? Who are you looking to connect with? That's the kind of advice I give people. It's like, look, Richard Branson may not, connect with you, but you can at least follow him, see the content he's putting out there, make comments. Some of those comments may get people that have that common interest to now want to connect with you. And so I think that's where the engagement is important. Do you think that there's like a right number of posts a week, or do you think that's more, or is it more of a consistency thing?
That's a really good question, and it's one I get asked all the time. How often should I post on LinkedIn? It depends on you, and that's what I say to all my students in my academy. Some of them are really, really busy business owners. They've got families. A lot of them are single parents, and they're trying to run their businesses as well. And if I said to them, you should be posting on LinkedIn every day or 3 times a week, they'd run a mile, an absolute mile. So I say to them, think about how often realistically you can post on LinkedIn and be consistent. And that's the most important thing, because if suddenly if you're showing up, and then suddenly you're not, then people will forget about you and you're going to lose that trust. So being consistent is really important. I mean, I would say once a week as a minimum. Posting on LinkedIn once a week doesn't have to be a great big long article or a blog. It can be something really quick and short. And if you can post 3 times a week, great. If you can post 5 times a week, then even better. But it's being consistent, and that's what's important. And as long as you're there commenting, and I say a rule of 5, at least 5 comments for every time you post,
Ah,
It'd probably be more, but at least. So when you go to post, you've got about an hour where your post is hot. So that's where, if you're thinking about the algorithm, if you're going to be on LinkedIn when you've posted within that first hour. Be commenting on other people's posts during that hour, and at least, as I say, at least 5. And when you're commenting, like you were saying earlier, it's not just a reaction or a like, and it's not just nice post, lovely post. It's about adding value. It's about contributing to a conversation, starting a conversation. So your comments on LinkedIn are as important as your posts.
does that, I guess, does that become part of and I know maybe some people don't realize, I think it's called the SSI, that index where they kind of like measure everything out and you get a score on supposedly how you stand in LinkedIn.
Yeah, your social selling index, SSI score. So yeah, you can go to your SSI score, linkedin.com/ in your profile, and then SSI, I think it is. If you want to know that link, just send me a DM. And it gives you a score. It's a percentage score of how good you are on LinkedIn, basically. And it's split into 4 sections, and you get a 25% attributed to each of the 4 sections. So, and it will tell you whether your engagement is, the weak part, your content is the stronger or weaker part, or your profile. It's a good gauge to see how well you're doing on LinkedIn, for sure. But yeah, if anybody needs to know more about that, I have got a blog about it, or if they want to DM me, I can really help with that.
Yeah. Tim, what are some of the, do you have any tips that you would want to share with people that you found helpful for you on LinkedIn?
I have found, really building relationships. So like, if you have a live stream show or whatever you call it, right? If you go live on LinkedIn every so often, think about the people who are tuning into your show and direct message some of them afterwards, just to say thank you, maybe start a conversation with them, and build relationships. Because so many people show up for you, but think about, like, how are you showing up for them, and then how can you continue that relationship? And some of those relationships will end up with people being your clients, right, Sarah?
Absolutely, and that's where it all starts. It is in those initial relationships, and they may not be clients straight away. It may take months, years. In fact, I've just taken somebody on who I'm working with, who I met in a room in Clubhouse actually over a year ago.
Wow.
And she never pitched to me once, but always I'm thinking, maybe she's the one for me. And we just started working together today, and it's incredible.
Amazing.
So it took over a year for that to happen.
Wow. Very cool.
That is awesome. So Sarah, you've got some things coming up. I shared it, the link in the comments. You want to tell us about your academy?
Oh, I do. So in May, June last year, I was asked to set up an accountability group to help a group. There were 4 ladies. They came to me and they said, look, we're not posting enough. We don't really know what we're doing. We don't want just a one-off training. We want to keep going and work together. So I thought, okay. So I set up this little group, and then I thought, well, you know what? Let's try and get some more people in. And it became LinkingIn Academy. And I've now got 35 members, and they're just brilliant. And they support each other and they look after each other. It's a monthly membership, and we meet every week. And I bring in guest speakers, and I do content creation sessions, and we do huddles where we all get together and talk about what's going on. And it's a really, really supportive group, and they get a lot of learning, etc., etc. So technically, it's a closed membership. But I've made a decision earlier today when we were chatting that anybody who's watching this, if they would like to join, they can do so.
Awesome. Very
So I
good.
think you've put the link. I don't know if you've got
Yes,
the link.
the link's in the chat. So if any,
Or just send me a DM or whatever.
yes, connect.
Yeah.
And I've got Sarah's LinkedIn profile link is at the bottom, scrolling on the page. So make sure you you connect with her, or but also when you connect with her, tell her, add a note, right? That's one of the things. Add a note, let her know, like, hey, I just saw you on the Tim and Jim show. Would love to connect. Don't just hit the connect button. I think, start that conversation when you connect with people.
I can't believe I haven't mentioned that, actually.
Well, you had it in the notes to remind you, sorry.
Lesson 1, when you connect with somebody, always add a note. And otherwise, I used this analogy a while ago, it's like walking down the street, clubbing somebody over the head and dragging them into the pub. You wouldn't do that. You get to know them first and then ask them if they would like to come to the pub with you.
Right.
So,
Yes.
Yeah.
so yeah, always add a note.
Very good. So Tim, any final thoughts from you?
No, just this has been great. It's great to see you, Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing all your valuable information, your amazing personality and warmth and bright colors and all the things. It's great to see you and have you here and share so much great information on LinkedIn. We really, really appreciate it.
Sarah, any final thoughts from you before we wrap things up?
I just really to highlight the value of building those relationships and how, we first met on Twitter and then we met in real life. And, we're going back a few years now and we're still here, still connecting with each other. And hopefully I'll see at least one of you in March in person in San Diego. But our relationship will continue forever. And that's what this is all about. That's what LinkedIn is about. And that's so important to build those relationships and stop whacking people over the head with spammy sales messages, please.
Right. Yes. No, that's so true. And I just want to say, Sarah, it was an honor to have you join us. It's so I know we had talked about this a while back, and actually, I think when we first talked about it, you hadn't done your shift yet. So I think it's even funny that if we'd had you on before, it probably would have been a completely different topic. And this was great to get to hear some of your LinkedIn brilliance, and looking forward to following more of it. And I think sometimes the challenge is, right, it's finding the time, wanting to jump on your and when is your clubhouse normally, for those that maybe aren't aware of it?
It's in 11 minutes every Wednesday at 5
so at 12 o'clock Eastern. That's, I believe.
I've got to run upstairs and get my phone off my daughter who's borrowed it for something and get on.
Awesome.
Because you can't do it on a desktop.
Not yet. That's right. And next week, folks, we'll have Nancy May. She's going to talk about some important topic involving when we have aging parents and some of the things we need to think about as business owners and family members that we maybe don't always think about and can have an impact on your business. So looking forward to that. And with that, folks, thank you again for joining us. Thank you again, Sarah. Tim, as always, great to be here with you. And don't forget to check Tim's show out, Perspectives on Cancer, Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Did I get that right, Tim?
That is correct. And our guest next week is Emily Harmon. We just had our pre-show interview with her a few minutes ago, and we're excited to have her on.
Awesome.
So yes, and you can tune in on my LinkedIn profile.
Excellent.
Then. So thanks.
All right, folks. Thanks. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, guys.